Hi Ghoulfriends, welcome back to my channel and happy 2026. How has everyone's 2026 been treating them? I know so many people that are so happy that 2025 is over. And if you are one of us who's so happy that it is, welcome to the club. On Tuesday, I uploaded my very first vlog of 2026. The video, which I'll link down below, was just circulating, resetting my house for 2026, taking down my holiday decor, making dinner, and taking care of my 34-year-old, almost 35-year-old skin. The video has no actual intro or outro to it, which I had debacled with myself on whether or not I was gonna post it because of that. But that led me into creating this video. I wanted to actually sit down or take you along with me while I filled you in on what 2025 was like for me, and also shared a lot of the struggles and challenges that I experienced over last year and even into the new year. I know I say it in every video, but especially in this one, I truly appreciate you sticking around, you hearing me out, and you sharing your story and your experiences down below in the comments. I would really love to fully dive into this community and make it a space that we can share these challenges that life is always throwing, because it's so hard sometimes to actually be real and authentic online. And I saw a video about how 2026 is the death of influencing and being extremely aesthetic. And as a bipolar mess of a girly, I couldn't resonate with that more. I knew that in 2026, I wanted to take my channel to a different level by showing my authenticity and by being vulnerable about what I'm actually going through, why I struggle to be consistent with posting and making videos, why I struggle being consistent with communication with friends and family. And so I hope you stick around for the video. It's gonna be a vulnerable one. And I hope that you share your experience in the comments, because you're not alone with what you're going through. And I think it's very easy for us to look at social media and think, oh, these people have their life together, but no one really does. So let's make our hydration drink and let's warm up yesterday's breakfast that we couldn't eat because depression stopped us from having an appetite. Grab a cozy blanket, grab your favorite warm drink, heat up your leftover breakfast, whatever that looks like, or your lunch or your dinner, or have a snack, and get ready. We're about to dive in and get real. I want to preface this video with trigger warnings. I'll be talking about mental health. I'll be talking about the struggles with that and trauma. So if that's something that may upset you or you might be extra sensitive to at this time, I would say skip this video. I have a lot of other videos on my channel that are cozy and cute. Watch those. And if you are buckling for the ride, thank you. I got my strawberry electrolyte drink in here. It's good. It's okay. It hydrates me. I need one of these a day because I'm a dehydrated girly. Even though I drink a lot of water, I kind of feel like my body just doesn't absorb it enough. So I don't know. But so I have my leftover breakfast here because my anxiety was through the roof. My depression was through the roof. And I didn't even find out the things that I found out yesterday afternoon by that point. So I think my body was like, oh, shit's about to hit the fan. But this is my breakfast. Turkey bacon omelet with American cheese and some home fries that I melted American cheese on top of because I love cheese. So I thought it was important to sit down and just have like a heart-to-heart discussion about the trajectory of my channel, what type of content I'm looking to do in 2026, some of my goals, and how 2025 was for me, because I was very in and out of content creation and my TikTok. So let's go back a little bit to April of last year, really like March of last year. I want to say that things kind of started taking a little bit of a turn for my mental health around March. Around mid-March, I started noticing that I was just feeling very depressed, and it was like nothing that I was doing was working to kind of get me out of it. And then in April, we had a big trip, and I knew a lot of my anxiety was coming from this trip because we were going to be flying, and I had never flown before. I used to have the most intense fear of flying. I would look up at a plane in the sky and instantly go into a panic at just the thought of being that high up and something happening. Now, cut to the trip, we fly. I was scared, but once we were up there, I fell in love with it. I actually never thought that that was going to be a fear that I was going to overcome. I would have been perfectly fine getting on a boat and going anywhere, but when it came to flying, that was like a huge no-no for me. And lo and behold, I wound up loving it, and being that high up was not as scary as I thought it was going to be, but I wound up loving it. And it was such a liberating moment for me because that was one of my biggest fears. And I was able to accomplish it and be able to visit my homeland of Puerto Rico and get to experience what that land was like and connect with the nature and the spirit of the island and the people there. I am Puerto Rican. My father is Puerto Rican, and I did not grow up with him. So there's a lot about the culture that I did not grow up knowing. And so it felt really, really good. I felt like I was discovering a part of myself going there. Now, the whole trip, it was a beautiful trip, but there was a lot of things that happened, and my anxiety and depression were literally through the roof. I really struggled with being able to enjoy myself just for the sheer amount of anxiety and depression I was experiencing at the time. And I was really trying to hide a lot of it. I really didn't want people to know how bad everything had gotten. And I am the type of person, and this is something that I'm working on through therapy, is allowing people into my inner world because I rather just deal with it on my own. I have a lot of trauma around sharing and being vulnerable and being betrayed. I have a lot of trauma on sharing and being vulnerable about where I'm at and being told I'm dramatic. And so my whole life was like that. And so I grew up to be the type of adult that just didn't really share. And if I did share, 9 times out of 10, whoever I shared with would wind up betraying me anyway. And so by this point, I had gotten to a point where I was like, oh yeah, I'm not sharing anything right now. Like, I'm just going to go through it and get myself through it. And when I came back from the trip was when I noticed that I was really having difficulty with my brain. So at the end of April, I had an experience while I was driving to work, and I was just feeling so low and just so like in so much pain. There was so many things that happened. I miscarried that September, and I put down my 14-year-old dog that I had since her birth that June. And so it was just so incredibly difficult with grief and trauma that was trying to resurface for me to process. So while I'm driving to work, I had this thought. I was feeling so low, and a truck pulled out in front of me, and I was just like, maybe I shouldn't press on the brake. It's hard for me to even share that, but I think that it's important that people understand where you're at and where you've been and where you want to go. And I did press on the brake, obviously. And I got to work, and I was in crisis mode for sure. And I reached out to my insurance and I said, I need someone. I need to talk to somebody. I really, really need help right now. It connected me with an incredible company where I was blessed to have an amazing therapist. Like, she has helped change my life so much. The beginning of May was pretty much my journey into therapy. Now, I had therapy growing up from 13 till about 19. And back then, therapy was so different. So I didn't have a good relationship with anything that had to do with mental health at all. And I remember I was talking to my therapist, and she was like, how long have you been depressed? And I was like, well, I've been depressed my whole entire life, ever since I was a child, honestly. But I said I had therapy up until about 19, and then I just been raw dogging my mental health for the last 15, 16 years on my own. And I remember she was like she started cracking up. And then she was just like, Brittany, like, that's a lot. It's a lot from what I had shared with her with my trauma and all of the grief that I have experienced with the losses. And if you know me personally, and if you know my wife personally, you know that we have had an exponential amount of losses throughout the years that we have been together. And so it was just a lot. And I have always been the type of person that I've been very creative and ambitious. And so whenever I felt passionate about something to be creative with, I would go for full force with it. I would completely indulge myself with it and just go. If I wanted a new job, I would just do what I needed to do. I put in my 2 weeks at a job and I would embark on a new career. And I've never been the type of like type A. I don't even think I'm type B or C. I think I'm like type E or F or probably Z type of person. I have learned that there's so many things that are tangible for neurotypical people to do and pursue, and that they are not tangible for me. Not that they're not obtainable, just that they don't necessarily align with who I am and the way that I move in this world. So I was working with my therapist, working my job, doing my home healthcare with my mom, and just kind of figuring out what's going on and how I can navigate the world better because, like I said, my brain literally stopped working. And because I was such an ambitious and passionate person, I would push myself completely to the limits of exhaustion, of burnout, of mental, physical, spiritual burnout because I felt like I was burdensome. I felt like if I talked about what I was going through, people would judge me for it because that's what's happened. And people would talk about me because that's what's happened. And I felt like if people really knew how depressed I was, how painful my experience had been every single day, no one would want to be around me. And I pushed myself and pushed myself and pushed myself. And it got to a point where in May, I really started to notice that I couldn't form words. I couldn't have conversations with people. And my job, I was a receptionist and an administrator. So I had to answer phones. I had to take care of customers. I had to talk to people all day. I was customer facing, it was customer service. And I genuinely could not do it. I would be on the phone with customers and a panic attack would hit me and I'd be on the phone hyperventilating. And how embarrassing to try to do your job and you're hyperventilating on the phone with someone mid conversation. I kept having to leave my desk to go to a private area so I could work myself through these panic attacks and anxiety attacks. I was just so sick and my body just gave up. My brain just gave up. I couldn't get to work on time. I couldn't wake up. I couldn't sleep. I like anytime I was eating, and at this time I was going through the height of my weight loss. And so I was barely eating. I was so dehydrated. I was so nutrient deficient. There were so many things happening within my body and in my brain that my brain just like broke. And that was the biggest factor of putting myself into therapy and figuring out what was going to work for me. Now, when I was 13, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And at the time, like I had mentioned, therapy was very different than what it is today. The realm of working with people who are neurodivergent, who are just different, who don't walk through this world like your type A typical person. It was very difficult to get doctors to believe you. It was very difficult for especially as a woman to be properly diagnosed. And I'm still working on diagnoses so I can know what is going on and truly how my brain fully works. But no one ever educated me on what it meant to have bipolar disorder. And so there was never any conversation around it. No medication was ever given. And I just grew up with thinking that I was dramatic because I was experiencing these intense, intense emotions of depression and sadness. And that was pretty much my experience my whole life with bipolar disorder, was being in an extremely, extremely, extremely long and intense depression or depressive episode that I actually never had gotten out of. I have a past with a lot of things that I try to numb myself and to escape my reality, the abuse I was experiencing, the just there was a myriad of things that were happening in my life as a child, as a young adolescent, a teen, up until my early 20s. And it wasn't until, I mean, I'm 34 now, going to be 35 in March, and it wasn't until last year that I started getting answers and I started talking to people who saw me for who I was. I have seen a lot of people talk about people with bipolar disorder, talk about how they are as people and how intense they can be. And it is true. I like to say that I'm a heavy heart. I think that my first emotion that I ever learned was sadness. And I resonate with it so deeply that it's very difficult for me to not be in that because I've learned a home in sadness. So when I got my official diagnosis as a bipolar person, it was very difficult for me to process that. Even though I had been told that when I was 13, I didn't understand what that meant. And there's so much stigma out there about bipolar people and how bipolar is one of the most treatable mental illnesses, mental disorders, however you classify it. And yes, it's true. You can treat it. It's something that can be treated, and maybe we might have a little bit of an easier or more accessible way of getting the treatment that we need. But it doesn't change the fact that while I am bipolar and while that might be something that's easily treatable, it doesn't mean that that's all that it is. I have extreme complex PTSD. And I know that I've talked to people who say that that's not a clinical diagnosis. My therapist did let me know that the type of PTSD that I have is complex, that does exacerbate my bipolar. I was just in such a deep depression. I was overran by my PTSD, by my grief, that my brain literally just broke and it stopped working. And the way that it was described to me was like actually having a brain injury and relearning how to strengthen your brain, because my brain was weakened by these episodes for this extended amount of time because I kept trying to push myself and push myself and push myself. And in no way am I saying that if that is you, that you have to get therapy or you have to go on medication or any of those things. In no way am I saying that at all. I'm just sharing what helped me and what's been helping me. That was pretty much the gist of my 2025. There was good things that happened. I saw Marilyn Manson in concert. I flew for the first time. I went to Puerto Rico with my wife and family. I got to experience so many beautiful things. And even though I miscarried, I got to experience seeing the positive lines on the test and sharing with my wife that I was pregnant. And then unfortunately, we did lose our baby, but there were so many beautiful moments that were right away chased right on the coattails of with despair and with sadness. So fast forward a little bit, and now we're at September 2025. And I'm at a point with my job and with the toxicity of the environment there that I was just like, I can't handle being here. And I'm not the type of person to quit a job and then be like, fuck you guys and I'm out. I've always been the type of person, I'll write my resignation letter, I'll give you 2 weeks, I'll train the new person, all the things. But I was really debating on whether or not I wanted to stay at this job because it was affecting my mental health so poorly. And I really, really, really was just not okay being there. In October, I went on medical leave. Honestly, it's like opening up Pandora's box, is how I like to describe it. My therapy got more intense. I was doing about 13 hours of therapy a week. Um, and it's a lot. Anyone who's ever done that much therapy knows how much it can take a toll on you mentally and emotionally, physically, spiritually. It's a lot. And I'm at a place now where I just have to be honest about where I'm at. And Everything that I shared is very vulnerable, and I'm sure people who might know me, who judge me and watch this video, will talk about it. I'm sure they'll show people and be like, look at her and all the things. But I honestly, even though it gives me anxiety to think about that, I can't care about that because I feel like God has put me on this earth to share these vulnerable things. I don't think that I've gone through all the things that I've gone through just for the sake of going through them. And I know a lot of people who share so much of my experience in their own lives and can see that you're not alone. There are people out there who understand you. There are people out there who love you, who will not judge you, who will support you. And it's so important, I want to say, to learn discernment, to save yourself from betrayal, to save yourself from energy vampires, to save yourself from people who will allow you to be vulnerable with them or open up to them and then stab you in the back or throw you under the bus or taint your image of who you are as a person and a being just because of what you're going through mentally and emotionally. I've had all those things happen to me, and I can say that I really had to learn discernment on who I could share things with and who I could not, because not everyone can be everything, and not everyone has a space, capacity, or even care, honestly, about what you're going through and where you're at. And that's been a really hard lesson for me to learn because I've always been a very caring type of person. I've always been the type of person that people can talk to. And so when I tried to do that with people around me, especially people that I really, really trusted and was burnt, I learned that that can't be that. And now my circle is extremely, extremely small. And I really vetted out the people in that circle to make sure that I was protecting myself and my heart. But I wanted to update you all on what's been going on and why it's been so difficult for me to consistently post and create content for you guys. The truth is that my depression is every single day. It's difficult for me to get out of bed most days. It's difficult for me to slow down and sit down most days. Once I'm up and I'm taking care of the home and I'm taking care of all the things and I'm taking care of everybody else. And I'm really, really trying to learn how to take care of myself and to make space for that. And I struggle with that a lot. I get burnt out extremely easily. It's not something that I'm proud of. And I'll be very honest, it doesn't make me feel good that I'm even sharing it. But I think that it's important to share because whoever does watch my videos and whoever does watch my channel, I want you to see the authentic me and where I'm at and what's happening. And I think that honesty is the best policy. And so that leads me into the trajectory of my channel. I'm learning about the things that I can control and showing up in the world as the person that I want to be and that I truly am. My channel has been very cozy lifestyle, and that's not really going to change. I really fell in love with vlogging and just sharing bits and pieces of my life. And it's been really beautiful to look back on the memories and see, but you all don't see what's going on behind the scenes. You all don't get to see in the vlogs that I struggled getting up that morning. Maybe I had a life-ending thought that morning or in the clip that I'm sharing while I'm making my water. All in all, I want to say that if you're going through anything, mental, physical, spiritual, I see you. I want my social media, I want my little corner of the internet to be a place where we can be okay with sharing those things and support one another. I had the pleasure of having my TikTok get some traction. I have this incredible community where they support me. And when I'm not posting for a couple days, they're like, "Hey girl, how are you? Are you okay?" Because they know. I've expressed on my TikTok my struggles with bipolar disorder and the fact that it can make me inconsistent with posting. And I'm learning to work through that. But it helps a lot to have a community that understands. And I'm hoping that you stick around for the journey. And I look forward to watching your journey and hearing about your journey, hearing about the wins that you do have, and seeing the struggles that you have, because I think it's important to share. And it's important because we often feel like we're alone in those times, but we're not. We have people there who love us and care for us. And sometimes that's hard to see when it's just us. My channel is going to look a lot like that. My posting schedule is going to be Tuesdays and Thursdays. They will be lifestyle, kind of cozy vlogs. I'll be taking you along with me, but with the lens also turned on the times where my bipolar is acting up and it is stressing me out, and it's making me inconsistent because my depression is so bad. I want the world to know that just because we have these things doesn't mean that we don't deserve to be seen. And it doesn't mean that we don't deserve to share our passions and our lives and our creativity with the world. 2025 was the end of the aesthetic, perfect videos, and I'm happy for it because I'm excited to create real videos for you guys that will still be beautiful visually, but will be real life, and my journey through it. I hope that you'll take the journey with me. Thank you to everyone who supports me and follows me. Hello to all of my new followers. I look forward to connecting with you all. If you like this video, please don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. Remember to be kind to yourself and to find kindness for others. The world needs more of that. I look forward to seeing you in my next one, Ghoul Friends. And until then, keep your candles lit and your shadows close.